Staying in Europe, where tensions are rising along the Serbia-Kosovo border, Serbia is placing troops on alert after a Kosovian police operation in a Serbian-populated area. As many as 23 people are now believed to have been arrested in what the country's prime minister is calling an anti-smuggling and organized crime operation. But Serbia's president and Russia are accusing Kosovo of provoking and intimidating Serbs there. So to learn more about the region and what it could mean for Europe and U.S. foreign policy, we turn to former U.S. diplomat Jim Jatras. Jim, I've had you on every part of the globe. You knew the time was coming. We'd have to go back to this area. It's always kind of a powder keg just sitting there to the side. Should we take Kosovo at its word that this was just an anti-crime operation?
No, look, this is clearly a provocation against Serbia based on the Serbian President Alexander Vucic's recent statement to his parliament that Kosovo is lost, we have to face reality, so they perceive weakness there, they're pressing forward. The idea this is an anti-organized crime operation, the president of Kosovo, Hashim Taci, the prime minister, Ramush Haradinaj, they are kingpins in the Albanian mafia there. They are sex slavers, murderers, organ traffickers. Kosovo is the prime recruiting ground for ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Europe. The idea that they're fighting organized crime when they themselves are organized crime bosses is ridiculous. This is purely political to put pressure on Serbia to make concessions to recognize this so-called independent state of Kosovo, which is simply a province of Serbia occupied by NATO.
Well, that's the thing. Kosovo's kind of not been in the headlines these past 2 months. I don't know if it's because they've been behaving, or do you think they've been taking advantage of the cover all of the turmoil in these other regions have taken and continue just under the radar, just as bad, just as growing, and now they're going, it's time for us to get some attention, world.
Exactly right. What they want ultimately is for Serbia to have to recognize their independence. And of course, Serbia is recognized by Russia, China, supported by Russia and China, most of the other countries of the world. And the fact is, the weakest link is the Serbian government itself, which despite popular pressure to hold on to Kosovo as sovereign territory, they would love to make a deal so they can get toward the European Union, which is odd given that the European Union is falling apart. Usually the rats jump off the sinking ship.
These guys are wanting to get involved with it right now.
Yeah.
Could this reignite tensions? And this gets very dangerous between Kosovo and Serbia. And what does that mean for the rest of Europe, besides just the economics of the EU that they want to get involved in? We're talking about terrorism. We're actually dealing with a very dangerous situation.
Unfortunately, NATO and the European Union are acting as enablers for organized crime and terrorism by maintaining this fiction of this fraudulent state and protecting them from Serbia, from the Serbian army and from Serbian sovereignty. That's going to go on for some time. The one small concession I would make to Mr. Vucic, he says the alternative to recognizing reality is a continuation of a frozen conflict. Okay, fine, let's have a frozen conflict for a while until this thing resolves itself back the way it should be, which is Kosovo's part of Serbia.
There's a lot of intricate different areas in the world right now that are requiring the attention of the Trump administration. This one is just starting to get reignited. Has this administration come out in any way, one way or the other, saying what their plan of action might be, or if they're even going to get involved?
I haven't seen anything specifically from the administration, but I'm sure that the knee-jerk autopilot response from the State Department will be, we support the Kosovo Albanians all the way, we support Kosovo's indivisibility and sovereignty, blah, 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 because every part of our Balkan policy is identical to what it was under Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton, and for that matter, the same as George Soros's policy.
Well, that's the thing. Ultimately, how does this impact the U.S., the average everyday citizen? Should they be paying attention to the events that are going on right now in Kosovo?
They should be asking why our government supports a bunch of terrorists and criminals in a European country. Why are we supporting people who burn down churches? Why are we supporting people that propagate Wahhabist poison ideology in the very heart of Europe? That has been American policy, unfortunately, for over 20 years. The question is, Donald Trump promised us a new America First foreign policy. Why hasn't this changed?
Well, and that's the thing. And it seems like these past few weeks, Jim, there seems to be some, at least communication avenues have opened up between the administrations here in the U.S. and over in Moscow. Does this hurt that relationship if the U.S. decides to really get involved even more aggressively and intervene?
Well, of course, just by the present state of affairs, it's essentially the tail end of an intervention that took place long ago and has never departed. I don't know that there's really that much of an opening with Moscow. It's one thing to have a dialogue. That's a good thing. What actually gets said, if there's any path forward to a more reasonable policy, I don't see it yet.
Well, it'll be interesting. Like I said, this is day one of covering this story. I know we'll have you back on because very rarely do these issues ever just take one news cycle.
Unfortunately not.
Unfortunately. Thank you so much for joining us, Jim.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.